So initially the book came about because the first line stuck in my head for about 3 weeks when I was in my third year at uni. I just couldn't shift it, and I generally think that if you can't shift an idea for more than a few days, then it's probably worth investigating and looking into. You do look like Brian Moore, the England former rugby player, crossed with a 70s porn star. But I think that's the look you were going for, so kudos for actually kind of nailing that. What I was hoping to do is donate half of my royalties from any sales between the start of the last royalty period and February, when I'll probably get the next check, to Fair Share, because this is an ongoing thing that we need to kind of support and make sure that, you know, people don't go hungry. Me and one other guy got through to the final chase, and we got to within 16 seconds of beating Anne. So it would have been for $7,000 each if we'd done it.
So welcome back, Pop Up the Bar with Chief and Go, episode 2 of series 2. We need to find a shorter intro because that's quite a tongue twister. Just quickly, Chief.
Be pissed.
Yeah. Chief, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Thanks, mate. Good. You? The handlebars of love, or whatever they're called, are coming on nicely. I'm just throwing up in my mouth saying that. So please, everyone, donate, because I've just had to call them the handlebars of love.
We're up to 145 quid, so the longer they go, the better the name. As you can see, if you're watching, if you're listening, you have no idea that Sam's with us. Sam, I'm not going to give too much away about you because I want you to introduce yourself. But what do you think of my handlebars before we go any further?
They're a bold choice. We'll go with that. You do look like Brian Moore, the England former rugby player, crossed with a 70s porn star. But I think that's the look you were going for. So kudos for actually kind of nailing that. Yeah,
I think you've named two of my favourite things there. The 70s and rugby. Do you want to give a little bit of an intro to yourself and why on earth we've got you on the book?
I mean, that's two different questions, really. I'm not entirely sure why you got me on the podcast, but it's nice to be here. I'm just having a nice day out, like. But yeah, so I'm Sam Joyson-Cardy. I'm an author from Nottingham. I'm 27. I'm also kind of a bit of a journeyman in a sense that I do just a load of stuff. So writing is my main thing. I've got a book out. It's called Breaking Point. You will be able to see this on YouTube. It's my phone case that my brother's bought me for my birthday. It's the front cover, that's cool. Pretty cool. And then I'm a quizzer. I say I'm a quizzer. I haven't been paid for that, but like I enjoy it. It's one of my main hobbies. And it's led to some really cool opportunities, which has been cool. We'll talk about that in a bit. And yeah, just kind of trudging through everything and kind of trying to make the best of, well, this chaos that has been this year generally. It's one of those things where the world's on fire and you're wearing like matchsticks as an overcoat, and you're just like, okay, we'll see how far we get. We'll be fine. And you get to the end of it, and you're like, oh, okay, nailed it. Like that's fine. Like, I
must have been soggy.
Was that?
Must have been soggy.
Yeah. Well, we are in Britain and it rains, so you know.
Yeah, that's a good point. One thing before we go into it, looking at my screen in front of me, I have never seen so much forehead with us three on the same. People look at me and go, "How on earth are you 26?" They'll look at you and go, "Oh my word, how on earth are you 27?" And
had a hard paper round. I think that's the general excuse. Like,
there's not many rooms that I've been in where I've had the most hair.
Yeah. Well, enjoy this moment then, Dan.
Yeah, because you are receding faster than the Ferrari reversing. So obviously you've got a book out.
Yeah.
What's the inspiration behind the writing the book in the first place and just writing in general?
So initially the book came about because the first line stuck in my head for about 3 weeks when I was in my third year at uni. I just couldn't shift it, and I generally think that if you can't shift an idea for more than a few days, then it's probably worth investigating and looking into. So it was, I don't remember the exact moment that I died. That's the first line. And I was just like, well, this is morbid and I don't really want it kicking around in my head forever. So I'm going to just put it down and see what happens, really. And then I got to about 10,000 words and thought, okay, yeah. So I put a bit out on Facebook and people seemed to enjoy that, and kind of the feedback I got from the introductions and the initial parts was pretty good. So I was, okay, yeah, we'll keep going. And it got to about 30,000 words, and I was thinking, all right, at this point, I'm not doing any uni work at this point, so I'm probably giving up my Spanish and French degree that I was doing to focus on this. So I might as well make it as good as I can. And then I got to 52,000 words and thought, well, I've done. So what next? And so I went out and tried to get a publisher, which I was fortunate enough to do. And then it came out in 2017 on Halloween. So Halloween's always quite a surreal thing for me, because everyone's sort of dressing up as demons and ghouls and stuff. I'm like, haha, my book. So yeah, it's been pretty cool. And generally with writing, I started when I was 8, and I don't know, it was really cold one day at school and I couldn't be bothered to be on the playground, so I kind of weaseled my way into my classroom at a lunch break, and they were doing a creative writing course for some of the older kids. I was in year 3, so I was really little. And then I just carried on writing these short stories based around the the character that we'd been assigned, really. So it kind of became a series of short stories, and ever since then I've carried on. I never really sort of saw it taking off or going in the direction that it has, but it's been really nice that it has given me the opportunity to become an author in the traditional sense and actually have something tangible that people have enjoyed reading so far, which I never thought when I was writing it. I'll be honest, off my tits on Tramadol, that I'd actually get really nice feedback about something I wrote basically on a trip.
Yeah.
So it's been pretty good. It's better than I could have expected, really.
Just want to put a
That's
disclaimer
such an-
out there for any budding authors that are listening. You don't have to be off your tits on Tramadol to write.
You do
Just
not.
write.
No. I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia when I was at uni, which is a chronic pain condition. So I basically just got given loads and loads of different painkillers while they were figuring out what was going on. And yeah, I just took some Tramadol, and then this thing came in my head, and I was like, okay, yeah, we'll see where we go with this, and that's what happened, really.
I mean, being writing in a trip, but a lot of artists back in the day, opium going around and stuff. So it's not unknown that art comes from trips.
No.
But
I just don't do it in the way that I did necessarily, because it's not conducive to good mental health. It's not conducive to kind of getting out and doing other stuff. But loads of artists you give examples like maybe Van Gogh or Toulouse-Lautrec or people like that who painted kind of what they saw in fits of maybe something to do with drugs or something to do with their minds or something like that. But yeah, it's not necessarily what you'd call the right route to go about it, I guess. So yeah, I'll back up Dan's disclaimer on that completely.
Whereas Uncle Tom says take Tramadol. No, I don't. So talking about other artists, obviously, I think people who write or who paint are all just generally quite artistic, in they just see life in a different way. You've got to have that kind of imagination and kind of ability to playfully exaggerate. Exaggerate makes it sound negative, but I'm not trying to be that. Who is it that, from kind of as you were going up reading and seeing, who was it that inspired you, and who kind of are your artistic heroes?
That's a really good question. When I was growing up reading, it was a form of escapism and just finding different worlds and being in those places, which are quite real when you're in them. So I was reading like Lord of the Rings and some more Tolkien stuff. Got older, I read Dracula when I was probably about 12 or 13, something like that. So bits and pieces like that, really. Film wise, Star Wars, anything kind of nerdy and sci-fi, really into that kind of stuff. and then just taking inspiration from everywhere you can find it, really. So reading as much as you can. If you want to start writing sort of books and writing anything, you're going to want to read more because it informs the way you look at the world. So even if it's not things that you necessarily would see yourself reading as part of something that you enjoy as a style necessarily, you might find an author. So I found an author that wrote a really good rom-com recently, where the characters weren't just two-dimensional people who fall in love and whatever else. It was there was background to all of them and their stories and how they missed each other by a few minutes or something, and everything kind of changed for them, and at the end of the book they get together. Spoiler alert. But like the whole ethos of it was very holistically based and grounded in modern life, rather than it being just kind of like, here's a plan and it's going to go exactly to plan. And I think there's a temptation with stories to make them so linear that everything just kind of follows on one from the other and there's no setbacks. But life isn't like that, so it's nice to read things that reflect life properly, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I like that. I've got a few more questions about the book, but talking about kind of what inspired you, I spent some time today thinking about some storylines of my own. I just have 3. I just want to run past you. Your honest opinions on them. Is that all right?
Yeah, sure.
All right. Dan's not heard these as well. Dan, I can have your honest opinion. So storyline number 1, this came to me probably about 3 months ago. There's a young lad called Barry. His parents die and he gets taken into his uncle's house, who's quite nasty, and then he finds out that he's a wizard. So, is that all right?
I don't think it's been done. Like, I can't. Yeah.
No, not been done. I'll maybe next to that one. Yeah. Dan, you're shaking your head. What's wrong, Dan?
Nothing. I think it's onto a winner. I think you could probably
onto a winner.
Yeah.
7 or 8.
I think, is it going to be like I don't know. There's another magic story that comes to mind. I can't think of the name right now. But is it going to like make Americans think that every school in Britain's like Eton?
Yeah, it's actually set at Bogwarts.
Bogwarts.
Yeah,
where'd you come up with that, man? That's
I don't know. And he's got like well, there's quite a few kids because it's a school, but there's a ginger one and there's a gal, and they end up nearly dying a lot of the time.
Ticking all those boxes.
Ticks all them kind of heartstrings. People, I'm hoping there's people listening, to be fair. Number 2, a short, angry man is best friends with a slow, inverted commas, larger man. They end up working on a farm. The large guy is called Benny, and he accidentally pets some rabbits too hard, and they die. And then he kills a woman. And then Benny dies.
I don't know where to think with these, to be honest, because I'm like, I really should have brought a notepad.
I've got a title for that one.
Yeah.
Of Rats and Males.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like a goer.
Yeah. Okay. Number 3 and the final one. A London family with a lot of kids. Their dad locks their dog outside one night and they get really upset. Then this magical boy with a shadow called Pedro turns up and they all fly off to Featherland, and he never grows up.
Sounds like someone else I know.
That one is based on me, to be fair.
Right, okay, yeah. So it's more autobiographical then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't fly kids off to my island.
No. Not with that moustache.
Not with that moustache.
I think they're all quite. I think you may not have nailed it. I think you might need to go back to the drawing board and maybe.
Don't like the ideas.
No, I think.
Yeah. I think there's probably some like kernels of inspiration in there, but you just need to heat them up on the stove and make them popcorn of stories. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I don't think any of those 3 will work. I don't think they'll ever make a movie.
No, they won't make a movie. I think they'll all be movies. Something that we were speaking about in the week, Sam, was you mentioned Fair Share.
Yeah.
Do you want to explain, because I had to go and do some research, do you want to explain a little bit around what Fair Share is and what they do and how you're trying to support?
Right. So I only really found out about Fair Share through Marcus Rashford's campaign to feed hungry kids over the holidays when it looked like the government weren't going to do it. And basically, they take food from restaurants and cafes and places like that that aren't so sort of surplus food that hasn't been sold, and they send it to food banks, and then it gets redistributed through the community. So what my plan what is gonna be is that I get royalties every 6 months, near enough. And what I was hoping to do is donate half of my royalties from any sales between the start of the last royalty period and February, when I'll probably get the next check, to Fair Share, because this is an ongoing thing that we need to kind of support and make sure that people don't go hungry, which seems like something that shouldn't be an issue in such a rich country, but right now is paramount, especially with the COVID crisis, with everything else that's going on. It just seems to make a lot of sense to try and get involved and support people in any way that we can, really. Same with your mustache, there's a story behind it, there's reasoning for it, there's I don't want to be too serious about the handlebars of love. Get your trademark in. But yeah, just making some kind of statement to say we support these people and we want to help them get through what is a really, really tough time right now.
Yeah, I think that's a really good thing. And there's a lot of people who obviously put support on social media for Marcus Rashford and so on. But there's as the society is with social media, it's quite often a like and a share, and actually there's not much action done off the back of it.
Yeah.
But something that people can do to contribute is obviously buy a book, and they know that as well as them getting a book, there's going to be some kids that actually and families that can actually eat. So I think that's a really big thing to do, because obviously 52,000 words isn't something that you can just do like overnight. So yeah, there's a lot of respect for you on that one.
Thank you.
We're going to give you another plug at the end for the book, and
Sure.
we'll tell people where they can buy it. But just a very quick kind of, if you were to do a movie trailer, I'd like a short little trailer of the book, so you can tell people, we can start to excite people, and that way they'll listen to the end to find out where to buy it.
Yeah, cool. Okay. It's a near future noir, is how somebody described it to me fairly recently, and I think that's one of my favorite descriptions of it so far.
Yeah.
It's set probably towards the end of this decade. There's technology that has become so interwoven with human life that people have small chips in their hand that can communicate. It's almost like having a mobile phone, but just in your body, really. And the protagonist is called Michael Wolff. He is kind of just a deadbeat in a sense. He's down on his luck. He just drinks whiskey, smokes his days away, and then all of a sudden people break into his house and stab him, and that's the start of the book. And then and so the whole book is encapsulated within almost a circle. So spoiler alert for the end, you start back where you begin. But essentially it's about discovering who he is in relation to a society that wants him to be uniform, and the technology that has been introduced is taking over rather than being an assistive part of people's lives. It's sort of a method of control rather than a method of augmentation, in a sense. So obviously people who start using this technology, they can get messages sent from the company that run it, and it takes away their freedom of choice, freedom of expression, and just kind of puts them in a cycle of work, consume, sleep, die, and that's it, and that's their lives, and they know nothing more than that, because they're anesthetized to the feeling of actual living, which is something quite surreal to be talking about over Zoom, with a phone beside me, with 3 social media accounts and all this kind of stuff, you know. But I'm nothing if not a hypocrite. So
I think that's definitely something that people kind of enjoy exploring and fantasizing over, is because the realer something is, be that a movie or a book,
yeah.
the more people buy into it, and then the more people are like hooked. So I think that's really cool, and it's one of them things that I've said for ages is going to happen. Microchip in the hand to communicate, it's possible. So
I mean,
happens. You know how The
yeah.
Simpsons predict everything that happens? If
Yeah.
that happens, I'm coming knocking.
Well, yeah, I'll be in the bunker, so, you know, knock loudly.
That's what I will be. With your
But
whiskey and
yeah,
your cigarettes.
I saw a news article a little while ago. It was about Elon Musk putting chips in the brains of pigs, and I'm like, that doesn't sound good. That
Has he
just
read
doesn't.
my book?
Yeah, I was at work when I used to work at Sainsbury's, and I was other supermarkets are available. I don't know if you have to say that on this one, but yeah.
I normally get in there and say that just as a joke.
Yeah.
Yet to be sponsored by. Just say what you want.
To be fair, I need to advertise different supermarkets because definitely other supermarkets are available. Trust me. But yeah, like, but yeah, I was reading and I was like, hold up, what possesses somebody to look at a pig and think, you know what that needs? Technology. Just generally, just some idea that, yeah, go on.
That's what happened when I walked into Carphone Warehouse. Them blokes that work there went, there's a pig and that lad needs some technology.
So you're not actually a human, you're like 3 pigs in a trench coat.
Well, one pot belly.
Nice.
Sorry, I interrupted you anyway.
No, it's cool. I'd lost my train of thought. It's fine. But yeah, just that whole idea of technology maybe outpacing what we know about its effects, almost Jurassic Park syndrome. Like, your scientists were so convinced that they could do it, they stopped to like think about what they were actually doing, and then in the end, a T-Rex eats them all. So,
yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to put a spoiler alert on that one. That film's been out ages. If you haven't seen it by now, it's on you. Just so there's always that kind of wariness when new technology kind of comes. Obviously, I'm not saying 5G causes COVID because I'm not a moron, and that's the problem. There are always those things where, you know, people will always look at something new and scary that they can't quite understand and think that's going to be the thing that ends humanity. You're like, really? And it's the same. It's always happened. It happened in the 1800s when the train first was invented, and people were worried that if they exceeded 15 miles an hour, they'd die. And that's, you know, it's the same sort of theory now, that, you know, something new, something that's going to fundamentally change your life is also going to eventually end you. And it's like, probably need to sort of do some more research on that, other than, you know, looking at your Facebook friends from school who obviously haven't done any studying since school, but will believe everything they see on Facebook because it's just there. You know what I mean?
I mean, it's true that a majority of not all, and I'm trying to do a generalisation, but the people that I've seen on my social media who are all the anti-everything, conspiracy theorists, can't spell GCSE, you know what I mean?
Hashtag not all Karens.
Yeah, not all Karens. Some of them can't spell Karen. But it is an interesting world out there. And I think as much as people will look at the arts and go, oh, it's because the imagination there is where it's fueled from. You know, now you can just play on it if you're an artist like yourself. You can just play on people's emotions and just let them fly a little bit further until hopefully off the cliff. So like I said, we'll come back to the book, Sam. But we know you like quizzing, so in true Dan style, He's come up with some questions for us. What have you got for your little feature this week for us?
The little feature isn't a quiz. It's to kind of get to know the guest better with some obscure questions. I'm not putting your knowledge to the test. Although on a
That's
quick
all right.
front, I feel like I could do with you in my ear on a Saturday night when we have our uni mates quiz, because I've never won that and I'm not very good at it. But anyway,
Not very good at it.
moving swiftly on. I'm mid-table now. It's just a
That's
few
not bad.
off-the-wall style questions that may stump you a little bit. So we're going big to start with. Who is your hero?
Bloody hell, you are going big, first of all.
Tom Ryan.
Yeah, slam dunk, easy. Who can't look at that mustache and think hero? I genuinely don't know. I would probably, out of, everybody who has ever existed ever, say my granddad. Because a lot of things happened when I was a teenager, sort of everything, the wheels came off a little bit, and my granddad kind of just stepped up and really kind of took us under his wing a bit, and was just there. And like, so when he passed away, I got given his walking stick and this ring, and I was slightly confused as to why I got the walking stick, but then it transpired that it was because when we went to the driving range once, he decided to try and demonstrate how we were messing up our golf swings, having never played a day's golf in his life, with his walking stick. Now, the traditional function of a walking stick is to provide stability. So when you try and turn that into something else, you lose the stability that you had as a tripod. And so a 70-year-old man with a walking stick up behind his head, and then suddenly kind of going slightly further backwards than he meant to, and ending up this walking stick ending up in the air, like, the things that hook onto the ceiling for bumper cars. He was just desperately trying to hang it onto the net of the driving range, like, shit. But he was a great guy. And yeah, every time I see Up, I cry for two reasons. One, because the start of that film is genuinely heartbreaking, and two, because it was a film that he took me to after some stuff kicked off, like a couple of days after. So now I've got that memory alongside watching the beginning of Up. So if you ever want to see me blub, Up is a good bet. Like,
we'll get you round to the new pad, and we'll cuddle, eat Ben and Jerry's, and watch Up.
that sounds nice.
People look at us while we cry, because I find it a bit emotional. And Franklin would be like, "What are you doing?" Franklin's my housemate, for those who have no idea what we're on about now. Go on, Chief.
If you could live anywhere, where would it be?
Is that anywhere modern day or anywhere historically?
Either. Yeah, anywhere historically.
Either.
Yeah, either.
Okay. I would probably say either. I've always been fascinated by ancient Rome. My mum was born in St Albans, and so we went back a few times. And there's Verulamium, which is the Roman city on which St Albans was built. And so they did a load of archaeological digs there, and there's mosaic floors and hypocausts, and there's a massive museum there. So it'd be really cool to have seen those structures when they were new. It's like the Colosseum. It's still magnificent now, but imagine what that would have looked like when it was built by... Oh, now I've painted myself into a corner.
Yeah, you have.
I can't
remember who it was built by, but Nero was the one that had loads of games there, and they weren't just like... So in Game of Thrones, obviously, where they're in the amphitheater and they get attacked. Obviously, the setup's fairly similar. It's gladiatorial, but then they also used to fill the base of the Colosseum with water and stage sea battles.
Hey, didn't know that.
It'd be incredible to see. Obviously, they got the lions out first, because that would have been a problem. But yeah, it just would have been really cool to see these things, how they'd been sort of developed and changed. And also the 60s, like the birth of rock and roll and all that kind of stuff, and the 50s and 60s, really, that kind of stuff, all the classic cars and the design that used to go on with them and things like that. Just those cool eras that we have the records of, and we have the legacy of. It would have been really cool to be transported into the middle of those. And then modern day, I would say somewhere just on the coast, somewhere warm on a coast somewhere. So south of France, Italy, I speak French, German, and Spanish, so I just like to travel. I don't know where I'd want to settle down at this point, but I just want to go and see as much of the world as possible, really.
Amazing.
If you could eat only one meal for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Oof. All right, calamari to start,
Yeah.
spag bowl, and
Yeah.
then sticky toffee pudding with cream.
Oh, so similar.
One go.
So,
What's yours?
calamari to start. It has to be a lamb roast though in the middles, and then either sticky toffee or apple crumble.
Oh, good shout.
Oh, right. Question. This is completely nothing to do with. Well, it is to do with this. Apple crumble and people have custard or ice cream. Did you ever have like crumble and evaporated milk when you were growing up?
Yeah.
Isn't it the best thing? Right. So I was chatting the other day and they were like, evaporated milk on it. And I was like, yeah, it's so good. And they were like,
Yeah.
great. So I was like, you have not lived.
Yeah.
They were like, you're living in nine.
Yeah, syrup sponge with evaporated milk as well.
Yeah, I've had people, because she wasn't the first person that said it to me, but I've had people go, do you live in 1945 Britain? Anyway, but yeah, there you go, Dan. Sorry, Dan.
And finally, what's your favourite zoo animal?
Zoo animal. Yeah, I wasn't really expecting this. I would say like elephants, because they're just so fucking weird. They're brilliant. Like you just bolt like the face of an elephant onto the body of a lorry and then just kind of give it two big pointy things at the front and go, yeah, that'll do. Like that's just the animal. Or the duck-billed platypus. It's just like God's leftover bin. He just like shoved some shit together and went, we'll chuck it in Australia and see how it does. And you know, it lays eggs and produces milk. So it's the only animal that can make its own custard.
Never thought about that. Never thought about that. But I do like the weirder animal, because I love animals. But like, if you look at when you see like a giraffe, you're like, what's the point? Like, why would you ever dreamt up like an anteater? Anteater, a giant anteater is one of the weirdest looking things. It looks like a hairy Elvis impersonator on all fours while hovering. It's a bit of a weird.
We've all had that dream.
Many times, right?
That's it from Chiefs Corner this week. Yeah,
Chiefs Corner. You just named it Chiefs Corner.
Yeah, I mean, if you're naming Handlebars of Love on the last one, I'm going to go with Chiefs Corner. I think I'm winning.
Are you? Can you go back to your corner then? While the adult talk, please. So, as we said, you like quizzing. You said earlier that you're a quizzer. See, I, in my notes, call you a celebrity quizzer because you've quizzed in the public eye.
Yeah. I wouldn't call myself a celebrity quizzer because I've met celebrity quizzers. So, but yeah, I know what you mean. I was on the chase. Start of this year. This year's gone on for a decade, so I don't know. But yeah, I think it was the start of this year I was on the chase. Well, the episode I was filmed on went out. It was filmed about a year and a half ago, and then it takes that long to get through sort of post-production and all that sort of thing. But yeah, it was out sort of early this year, which was really cool. Went up against Anne Hegarty, which was really surreal because I've watched The Chase probably just about since it started, and that's been nearly 10 years probably. So to actually be in that studio and be there, it was just like, okay, this is not a normal day. But it was really, really cool. And you know, people say, oh, Bradley Walsh is lovely, and he genuinely is. He's wicked. So we were talking about my book at the start, because I basically said, in your sort of spiel, you go, hi, I'm Sam, I'm 26, I'm an author from Nottingham. And you do the voice with a little upward inflection in the middle to make it not sound like you're terrified. So he was like, oh, you're an author. So we started talking about AI and robotics and how Boston Dynamic is a company in California that started building robots that can jump and walk and do all this crazy stuff that makes them look quite humanoid in a sense. So yeah, it was really cool. And then yeah, me and one other guy got through to the final chase, and we got to within 16 seconds of beating Anne. So it would have been for 7 grand each if we'd done it.
Would have been tasty, wouldn't it?
It would have been pretty cool. And then they do Beat the Chasers, which is like the spin-off they did on Prime Time, where all 5 of them were there, and you could sort of choose to play up to 5 of them. And they invited me back to do the pilot for that. So the bit that never got sort of shown on TV, just to test the format worked. So we went down to BBC Television Centre, where the BBC used to be housed. That was last year, yeah, and did the pilot for that. So I got a DVD of my chase episode and a mug with the chase on it, which was really cool. And then yeah, I would have won 10 grand on that because I beat Sean and Anne combined. So
They didn't even give you the cash in the pilot.
It was not in the pilot, no. So it was really surreal because you go into the audience afterwards and they're like, "Oh, drinks are on you." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's Monopoly money. It's all right." But yeah, it was just a really cool experience to see all these people up close. And the only reason I only took on 2 of them without sounding too big-headed was because the producer, because obviously it's not just it's not just one take. So you do your first bit, and then they have a pause to move the set around and maybe get a quick drink and stuff, and then you go back. You stand on stage in this kind of surreal limbo bit between being actually filmed and not being filmed. So you're standing there kind of like with 100 eyes on you in the studio, and the chasers all up on this big podium, sitting there looking down at you, and you're just like, "Do I sing now? What's going on?" And so, yeah, the producer came up and she sort of nudged me and said, "Right, so basically to test the format, we've had someone go for the full 5. We've had someone go for the full 5 and be really mouthy, which is what we told them to do. We've had somebody go for 3. We've had somebody go for 1. Now we just need someone to go for 2 and see how that goes," kind of thing. And I was like, "Oh, all right then, that's fine." But yeah, they offered me 10 grand between the 2 of them, and I beat them. And I got 7 questions right in 28 seconds.
Gee,
So,
that's
yeah,
quick.
you kind of just go into like a zone. It's one of those things where quick fire quizzing, when you just sort of one after the other, after the other, after the other, you just kind of, if you get into a rhythm and you feel good, you just kind of go and you just kind of get there, and then afterwards you're just like, "I did that. Oh, okay, yeah." It's really surreal watching it back and being like, "Oh, okay."
Is it a case of like, I guess you don't think about what you answer. You just open your mouth.
Yeah, you sort of forget the ones you get right, and you will remember the ones you got wrong till the day you die. Like in my chase episode, the one answer that gets brought up constantly at home, I get ripped no end for this fucking thing, is when, so there was a question about how many legs are on the Hogwarts crest. How many animals? So I was like, "Okay, right." And the thing is, what you don't see is sometimes Brad messes the question up, so he has to reread it. And there's a screen up by the chasers where the question and the possible answers are, so that you can read it while he's saying it. And once he said it, they don't take that away. So when he resets and asks the question again, it's there. So I was there, standing there counting on my fingers, like taking my shoes and socks off so I could get to 20 if it was necessary. And then he rereads the question, you press your button, answer comes up, and I got it wrong. So it had even longer to think about it, and I still messed it up. And I was gutted about that one. That one's the one that really kind of stings. The other ones I'm not too fussed about getting wrong, because obviously, like, if you don't know them, you don't know them. But if you can take a punt and have an educated guess, then you're more likely than not, if you have a vague inkling of something, you'll probably get it.
So the question was on the Hogwarts crest?
Yes.
Not Bogwarts?
Not Bogwarts, no, because I don't think you've come up with a design for that one yet, unless it's just going to be a straight copy.
Wait, what's Hogwarts?
I don't know. Somebody wrote some books. They were popular.
Yeah,
Are
I
you
think
telling me someone stole my idea?
I think it might be the other way around.
Only by a few years.
Balls. All right, okay, moving on. So this is quite a broad question, and I fear when I sent this over to you earlier today that you probably went, what does he want to know out of this? What is the dream? Which is one of my favourite questions a friend used to ask everyone he met. You met him, Sam, Ben Wildman. What is the dream? Absolutely love the question. So, yeah, I would like to know the answer.
Wow, that is a good question. Especially this year, that is a really good question, because most of the time it's the dream is get up, do another day, and go to bed and not have things on fire. That's generally a good way to start. But more sort of long term, I'd really like to be in a position where I don't have to do a traditional job, in a sense, that I can really focus long term on writing and just be the best author that I can be in that professional sense. That's where I'd want to be. Like personally, that's an even bigger question, because I don't think anyone gets to 27 or 28 or whatever without thinking there's forks in the road that you don't choose, and you almost have alternate lives in train. Yeah. Like if there's sort of alternate paths you could have taken if you'd done something differently, where would you be now? But I'd say that long term, I think the only thing you can answer that question honestly is just I want to be happy. And that's it. Like the dream, I think, obviously Ben will probably know this as much as anybody. If he asks everybody the question, you're going to get a million different answers, but realistically the root of all of them is going to be I want to be happy, because at the end of the day everything else around that is just ephemeral. Like, it will come and go, but if you're not happy with how things have turned out, you'll never be truly satisfied with what you believe your dream is. So I've always kind of said, when opportunities come up, try and say yes, because if they don't work out, they don't work out, but you've tried and you've got a story out of it. So going down to the chase, I drove myself for the first time on the motorways on my own. And then by that point, I was able to just enjoy being in Elstree and doing a quiz, which is something I love. And potentially the money was one of those things that it was nice to think about, but it wasn't ever real. I was there for the experience. And I think that's what we all have to do most of the time is do everything we can to be happy and follow the plan that we have in our heads, but also be prepared that life can kind of kick us in the balls on occasion. Or similar kind of area if balls are not something that you have. Just, it's possible that you're gonna get take a kicking, and you just got to work a way around it and get back up and kind of keep going. Because people say, 52,000 words, how did you do it? And it's like one word at a time. If I had to sit down and write like 52,000 words in one go, wouldn't be able to do it. But you just kind of chip away, and in the end you've got something tangible that you've done, and it might take you a while, but you've got there in the end. And I think that's just similar to having an overall dream. All those little bits that people don't see. It's like, Muhammad Ali used to say, champions aren't made in the gym. But nobody sees the work that goes in behind the scenes. You've just got to turn up when your opportunities arrive. And so that's what I kind of try and do.
Yeah, I love that, actually. And you're right, because I know you, and you're one of them people that you're not, you know where you want to be, but you're not going to ignore everything around you, because there's so many people that just want to get from A to B, and they miss everything that goes past them. And there's so many opportunities in the world where people just go, don't, like, head down and walk, you know what I mean? It's just like such a shame, because life is worth living. Like, definitely. Life is worth living, every bit of it. There'd be shit stuff, but actually it can be good fun if you take the opportunities. If you're one of them people, and it's not a bad thing to cotton wool yourself and just you don't want to take opportunities, then that's you. That people aren't risk takers. But yeah, no, I love that. Just before we say thank you for coming on, Breakpoint, where can people get it? So obviously it goes some of the money goes to a good cause. So yeah, let's promote that for a bit.
Yeah, so you can find it on Amazon. It's on most websites, so Waterstones, WH Smith, I think it's still on there. If you Google it, you'll probably be able to find it on various places. If this is around the world, internationally, then it's probably available somewhere near you. There's also a small a website that lists every independent sort of bookshop in the country, and you can buy books directly from that website, and it gets sent through there. So hive.co.uk is a website where you can find loads and loads of books without necessarily having to maybe go on Amazon or places that maybe you have a moral discrepancy with, let's put it that way. So if you want to put your money somewhere that isn't a big corporate chain, then check it out on various different places, and you'll probably be able to find it.
Sounds great. Sounds mint. Well, thanks for coming on.
Oh, no worries. Thank you for having me on.
That's all right. Chief, you've been very quiet today. Have you got any questions?
Oh, I've loved just hearing Sam's story.
Cheers.
Cool. It's been cool. Sam JC, by the way, does not mean Sam Jesus Christ.
Only when I've done something wrong and there's Sam Jesus Christ.
Jesus Christ.
It's a very different inflection, yeah.
And to be fair, before I let you go, I was going to read to you because I was looking for Breaking Point on Google earlier. Sam is 23 years old and lives in Nottingham with his family. He fell in love with writing, aged 8, with short stories. Breaking Point is his first novel, and he hopes to write many more. So people know your name, and they find everything about you on Google, which is pretty. Because if you Google me, I don't come up for any reason, let alone the good reasons.
Well, I mean, it's better to not have any other reasons for Google to know who you are. Like, it's, you know, if they're not finding you for the good stuff, then it's probably best they don't find you for the bad stuff as well, you know.
That is very true. And on that note, before I incriminate myself, thanks for coming on. And we'll be on next week on Prop Up the Bar with Series 3. And I cannot remember for the life of me who we're talking to next week. So we're talking to someone next week, and I'm sure they'll be only half as good as Sam. Please be as good as Sam if you're listening, and we've already agreed for you to come on. Thanks very much. Speak soon.
Cheers. Thank you for having me on. Cheers, guys.